You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
So we're going to talk with Shea here, getting back on the horn. LSU, they are on the hats on the table for two elite defensive line prospects, both set to announce this week in consecutive days. So definitely want to get Shea's take on that. We have Shea Alondra. Shea, how's it going, man?
It's going well. How are you, Moose?
I'm doing awesome. We're getting close to a little 4-day weekend here on our part, so we're looking forward to that. Shea, big week for LSU at position of need along the defensive line. Two guys, both elite prospects. LSU a hat on the table for both. Want to take them kind of in order. A guy we've talked an awful lot about here, it feels like over the past few months, is Zion Williams, 4-star out of Texas. He's set to announce July 4th. Where does it stand for LSU there?
Yeah, things have trended in LSU's direction here for a bit, and I think it will look for a kid coming out of Lufkin that Bo Davis, LSU's new defensive line coach, has been recruiting since he was the D-line coach at Texas. This is one that's kind of been in the making long before he even joined the staff. So was at Texas, recruited him there, came to LSU, picked up on the recruitment. This is a 4-star out of Lufkin, who in that 6'4", 310, 15-pound range. He's about to be a senior this fall, and then he'll be off to college as an early enrollee. So in a year where we've talked plenty about how badly they need defensive tackles on the team right now, recruiting them and stacking them up as best you can in Bo Davis's first year is certainly paramount. So we knew, we talked about this, Moose, and we talked about it with Moscona, that when you fire and part ways, or however you want to phrase it, with an entire on-field staff on defense in January after a bowl game, and then by the end of January hire all their replacements, their recruitment is going to be a little bit behind the pace that the coaches on offense are at, where they landed Bryce Underwood and Harlan Berry, guys like that, in January, coming off the season. So I think we're going to start to see, June was when all these guys made visits. They had camp. I think July, with the dead period, provides an opportunity for a lot of these guys, including the guys we're talking about, to mull over the decision, make it final, and then reveal their choice. And this is when I think the defensive dominoes for LSU start to drop. It should be a big month there, but yes, my pick is on LSU to get their first D-tackle of the Bo Davis era when Zion Williams, not Zion Williamson, announces later this week on Thursday.
Shea, I was sitting at my desk earlier rehearsing Zion Williams and not Zion Williamson, because that and if ultimately the kid ends up at LSU and plays for the time, that's going to happen all the time. Like, none of us are safe. None of us are safe from that. Okay, so if that's July 4th, July 5th, there's another big prospect along the defensive line, and this is Damen Shanklin, number 1 edge, correct? Where does it stand for LSU there? It's LSU, Alabama, and Ohio State, I believe?
Yes, LSU, Bama, Ohio State are his final three. He's coming out of Indianapolis, 6'5", 235 pounds. Teams from coast to coast were on him, and obviously if you've got a final three of LSU, Bama, Ohio State, which is those three teams are the current 1 through 3 on the On3 industry rankings. So, ranking each recruiting class, those are your top 3 classes as it stands right now, ahead of all these waves of decisions that we'll have coming. But Shanklin certainly getting recruited by the best of the best. I think the good news for LSU here is that, yes, you've got a defensive staff that is new and is maybe behind the 8 ball a bit in terms of building their board, getting guys on campus, official visits, all that. But much like with Bo Davis and Zion Williams, who we just talked about, Kevin Peoples, who came from Missouri, and Blake Baker, who came from Missouri, were both recruiting Shanklin to Missouri in the early stages of his recruitment. And he's the number 1 player in the state as he's coming out of Indiana. So obviously Missouri was in the state recruiting guys. He was a priority. And then when they got to LSU, they just picked up right where they left off. And I do expect, we have not heard much buzz around Ohio State following their visit. We didn't hear much buzz around Bama following theirs, but after that LSU official visit, there was very strong buzz that they were the leader going in and the leader exiting. So this could turn into a very, very big week if they can drop back-to-back dominoes. And right now, that's the expectation. And Shanklin's a top 100 prospect, so that would give LSU and Kevin Peoples, the new defensive end, edge coach, however you want to frame it, landed Jesse Harold, a top 100 prospect, about a week ago, maybe a little more, and now can go to Indianapolis and grab another top 100 edge rusher. So the rich get richer there. A nice start for that position.
There's one more on the defensive side that we'll get to, but specifically with the defensive line, because we talked about it right off the top that it is such a position of need, and we've talked about that whether it was transfer portal or just in high school recruiting. If they land both, that'll give them two more. What do you think the numbers look like on the defensive line for this class in 2025?
I think if they get Shanklin and then take a third edge rusher, it would be a guy locally, and Lutcher has, at least if you're looking around Louisiana, Lutcher's got a guy becoming a senior, Rashad Sterling. He's committed to Houston and that Willie Fritz staff that had been at Tulane, so they had been familiar with him. But LSU offered when he came to camp this summer. So I would think that I would lean towards him flipping to LSU at some point rather than sticking with Houston. We'll see. But that would give him three edge rushers. And landing this week, Zion Williams gives you one defensive lineman, DT, as you put it. So from there, Brandon Brown, who's a Texas commit, that Bo Davis got to commit to Texas when he was there, but he's not playing in Texas. He's from Florida. That's the guy that I think we're watching pretty closely to see, hey, look, now that it's the dead period, are you ready to announce if you're sticking with Texas or flipping to LSU? And a number of people feel that he will flip to LSU. I think that they could probably add a couple of more after that. So I'd say between 3, maybe 4 DTs and then edge guys kind of around that 3 number, and totals out to about 6 or 7 guys. And that's a nice haul in year one for 2 new coaches.
For sure, especially like you said, taking some time to get the recruiting board back together. All right, so obviously it was, last weekend they lose the commitment from DB Jabari Antoine. Now it seems like they've really picked up the pace with DB Jace Thomas. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, Jace Thomas is a guy, and look, we talked about this last week when we were all on the show about Jabari Antoine. I mean, I think he's a kid who can play corner, can play safety, can do a little bit of everything for you. Could play that star position that Blake Baker's bringing in now that we've seen Major Burns and Kylan Jackson at. So versatile, but he decommitted. He's going to take a look around at Florida State, Miami. I still think, even with them having lost some Westgate guys in recent years, that they're in a spot where before signing day, he'll end up a Tiger again. I just think they have too much of a need there at DB, and they can really sell him on it. But with Jace Thomas, we knew, hey, look, there isn't a safety in Louisiana that they've offered yet. It was bound to happen at camp. And coming out of Destrehan, which is a pipeline to LSU at this point. I mean, they just signed Kalaj Cobbins a year ago. John Emery just announced he's coming back for another year. Number of Destrehan kids on roster before you even get into the NFL stars like Justin Jefferson. But Jace Thomas got his offer, and I think it's only a matter of a couple of weeks now. He said about mid-July. I think it might be the 14th is when he'll reveal his decision. I've got my pick on LSU, and as I said, that would keep the dominoes dropping with D linemen, with DBs, and really put them in a spot where you come out of the summer and things have evened out a bit. You got off to a very fast start with commits on offense, and no shocker, they had the number 1 offense in college football and a Heisman winner. But replacing the whole defensive staff led to a little bit of a waiting game here with the defensive prospects. But, hey, as they come in, these are blue-chip guys, all 4-star and above, and a number of top 100 guys.
And look, and I'm going to say everybody obviously loves the rankings, right? Everybody wants to know where the class is and whatnot. We talked about them landing. I mean, you just said it there, blue chip after blue chip after blue chip, potentially adding 3 more here in the next, 2 weeks or so. What would that do for LSU's class as they try to chase down Alabama and Ohio State?
It keeps them on pace because their blue chip rate right now with 12 commits, I believe it is the best of any team in the country, percentage-wise. They're above 90%. All but one are ranked as 4 stars or higher, and have a couple 5 stars already committed, have the number 1 overall player in the country committed in Bryce Underwood. So very strong start. That's what's kept them at 1 at one point and 2, and now they're at 3. So they've not dropped out of the top 3, no matter kind of what the shuffle's been around the country with other teams. I think it's landing guys like that, but it's also finishing with a bang. Do they get a DJ Pickett, a 5-star, who is the number one corner in the country? Can they somehow swing Jonah Williams, a 5-star, the number one safety in the country, coming out of Galveston, a guy who plays both football and baseball, and they're recruiting him in both sports? And you can go through that list of receivers who are all 5-star or 4-star guys, and some of the same teams are battling for all of them. So we'll see how the chips fall. But I firmly believe, Musso, that this will be a top 5 class, which it was a year ago and it was the year prior. So they're off to, I think they found their footing here in the Kelly era of how they want to recruit, what they're going to do, and then what the expectations are at the end.
Chatting with Shea Dixon on 3 of the Bengal Tiger on Twitter at Shea Dixon. Shea, I do have one more for you, and it's more of a kind of a perspective question. I mean, you've done this obviously plenty. You've covered a lot of major athletes, committed to LSU, not committed to LSU. But with Bryce Underwood, I mean, obviously, obligatory Bryce Underwood question, right? But with Bryce Underwood, correct me if I'm wrong, he still hasn't taken his official visit to LSU, right?
He has not yet. All
Okay.
of his visits have been unofficial.
And there's been a lot of them. Is there a prospect out of state that you can remember visit LSU that much? I mean, obviously, as highly touted as him, but just visit that much without the official in between?
You know, he's up there for being the number one overall prospect. We've seen it before, yes, with the in-state teams. If Georgia's got a kid, Louisiana has a kid, they'll get him on campus plenty. But to go, we're not even talking about a kid from Tennessee. To go
Right.
from Michigan to Louisiana that many times on your own is certainly a big deal. And look, not far behind him this spring. I think Bryce has been here 3 or 4 times this spring, not visited anywhere else. Unofficially, DJ Pickett, 5-star and number one corner out of Florida, came 4 to 5 times. I think 3. He said 4 to 5 unofficially, and then did his official already. But yes, the official is still in the back pocket for Underwood. And I was looking it up the other day. If he signed today, he would be the second highest rated prospect that LSU has signed after Fournette in the modern era, so the last 20 plus years. So that's kind of the level we're talking in terms of coming out of high school. And look, the rankings aren't done. That he's only a percentage or point or two behind Fournette. This could go down as the highest ranked signee LSU's had since 2000, which is kind of a testament to just how good of a prospect he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that it struck me the other day. I was just like, man, that guy, because it feels like every time they have some type of big weekend, Bryce Underwood's here. And it's just like, well, you haven't heard anything about the official yet. And I was trying to find it, and I was like, yeah, I'll just ask Shea. I'll see if what Shea can tell me about that, because that's, I mean, and like you said, Michigan to Baton Rouge, that's a trek, man. So hey, if you're looking for actions speak louder than words, right? I guess in that regard.
Now, watch what they do, not what they say. That's one of the 10 commandments of recruiting, I believe. So it usually tells the tale.
Absolutely. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, with us every Tuesday here on AFR. Shea, we appreciate it as always, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll talk next week.
Sure thing. Y'all get over there on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Get subscribed. Follow Shea. Y'all read all the stuff. They do a fantastic job.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.